There are places in America where the danger announces itself. A hurricane on the coast, a wildfire on a ridge, a river rising over its banks. But in one small town in Pennsylvania, the danger came from below. Not with an explosion, not with a wall of flame, but with smoke rising from the ground, pavement cracking open, and a fire that moved through the darkness under streets where people still lived. This is Centralia. At first glance, it does not look like a disaster zone in the usual way. There are no skyscrapers leaning over a ruin, no crater at the center of town, no single dramatic scar that explains everything. Instead, there are empty roads, a few remaining houses, grass growing where neighborhoods once stood, warning signs, cemeteries that outlasted the town around them, and beneath it all, an underground coal fire that has burned since 1962. For more than 60 years, Centralia has been slowly consumed by something most people cannot see. The story begins in northeastern Pennsylvania, in Columbia County, in a landscape shaped by coal long before Centralia became famous for smoke and abandonment. This is anthracite country. The hills here are wooded and rounded, but below them are layers of hard coal that powered homes, factories, railroads, and entire communities. Towns were built around the mines, roads followed the ridges, families lived close to the same underground workings that supported the local economy. Centralia was one of those towns. It was not built as a ghost town, it was a working borough with churches, shops, schools, sidewalks, cemeteries, and houses close enough for neighbors to know each other's routines. In the middle of the 20th century, people here still understood coal not as a distant industry, but as part of everyday life. But coal country also carries old risks. Mines close, but they do not disappear. Tunnels remain, shafts remain, voids remain. Broken rock, old supports, and hidden passageways can stay beneath the surface for generations. And in Centralia, those forgotten spaces became the pathway for a fire. The commonly accepted version of the story begins in May of 1962 near the Oddfellow Cemetery, where the town used a former strip mine as a landfill. The area was close to old mine workings. That detail would become critical. A fire was set in the landfill, apparently as part of a cleanup effort before Memorial Day. At the surface, it may have seemed like a routine local problem. Trash burning in a pit, smoke, odor, something to be controlled with water and equipment. But the land beneath Centralia was not ordinary ground. It was mined ground. And somewhere in that relationship between burning waste, exposed coal, and old underground openings, the fire found a way down. Once a coal seam catches fire underground, it becomes a very different kind of enemy. It does not need open flame where people can see it. It can travel through coal beds, abandoned tunnels, cracks in fractured rock. It can follow air. It can smolder slowly. It can heat the earth above it, release gases, and shift direction beneath places that look calm at the surface. Centralia's fire was not simply a fire under a building, it was a fire inside the geology of the town. Early attempts were made to stop it. Crews tried excavation, they tried flushing material into the mine area. Plans were made, revised, and abandoned. But every underground coal fire is a race against knowledge. Where exactly is the edge of the fire? How deep is it? Which tunnels still connect? Where is oxygen getting in? Where will the fire move next? In Centralia, those questions became harder to answer as the fire spread through old workings beneath the borough. At first, daily life did not end all at once. That is one of the most unsettling parts of the story. People did not wake up one morning and see the whole town burning. They saw signs, steam from the ground, strange odors, warm pavement, dead patches of vegetation, cracks, soft ground, places where snow melted differently than it should. The danger was gradual, uneven, and sometimes arguable. Some residents believed the threat was severe. Others believed it was overstated. Some wanted relocation. Others wanted the town protected, repaired, or simply left alone.
That division mattered, because Centralia was not just a geological problem. It was a human community being asked to accept that home might no longer be safe. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, the signs became harder to ignore. In one well-known incident, a local gas station owner discovered unusually high heat in an underground gasoline tank. For a town already worried about fire beneath the surface, that was not an abstract measurement. It was a warning hidden inside ordinary infrastructure. Then came health concerns. Underground fires do more than burn coal. They can release carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. They can reduce oxygen in pockets near the ground. They can turn basements, yards, and low places into invisible hazard zones. And then, in 1981, Centralia's story changed in a single moment. 12-year-old Todd Dimboski was near a backyard when the ground opened beneath him. The hole was narrow, sudden, and deep enough to kill. Hot vapor and dangerous gases rose from below. He survived by clinging to exposed roots until his cousin pulled him out. That incident became the image Centralia could not escape. Before then, the fire could be discussed in meetings, reports, and arguments. Afterward, it had a human face, a child nearly swallowed by the ground in a town where people still lived. The sinkhole did not create the danger, it revealed it. After that, Centralia moved toward a different future. In the 1980s, the federal government funded a relocation program. Many residents accepted buyouts and left. Houses were emptied, buildings were demolished. Blocks that once had porches, windows, and front steps became open lots. The process was not simple, and it was not painless. For many residents, leaving was not just a safety decision. It meant abandoning family houses, churches, memories, and a place that had carried generations of local identity. For those who stayed, the question became more personal. How dangerous is too dangerous? Who gets to decide when a town is finished? And what does home mean when the government, the maps, and the ground itself all seem to be saying it is time to go? In 1992, Pennsylvania moved to condemn remaining properties through eminent domain. In 2002, Centralia's zip code was discontinued. In 2013, an agreement allowed the remaining residents, at that time, to stay for the rest of their lives, after which their properties would transfer away. By the 2020 census, only 5 residents remained. A town that once held more than 1,000 people had become a near ghost town. Yet Centralia did not vanish from the American imagination. In fact, it became more famous after it emptied. People came looking for smoke. They came looking for cracked pavement, warning signs, abandoned streets, and the feeling of standing above something still burning. One of the most visible symbols was the abandoned section of Pennsylvania Route 61. Damaged by the effects of the mine fire, the old roadway was closed and bypassed. Over time, it became known as the Graffiti Highway, a long, cracked strip of pavement covered in names, drawings, symbols, and messages from visitors. It was both memorial and spectacle, a place shaped by real loss turned into a destination. In 2020, the graffiti highway was covered with dirt by its owners, ending one of the most recognizable modern images of Centralia. But covering the road did not end the story, because the real story was never just the road. It was the ground, it was the smoke, it was the fact that a town could be erased not by a single day, but a slow disaster that kept moving beneath it. Centralia is often described like a ghost town, and visually, it is easy to understand why. Empty streets, few houses, cemeteries still maintained near open land, forest reclaiming places where people once walked to school, church, work, and home. But calling it only a ghost town misses the point. Centralia is not abandoned because of a legend. It is not abandoned because of a curse. It is empty because of coal, fire, geology, old mining, public policy, risk, and the hard choices people face when the place they love becomes unsafe in ways that cannot always be seen. The underground fire beneath Centralia may continue for many years. Exact predictions vary, because underground fires are difficult to map and control. But the core reality is clear. The fire did not end with the evacuation, the demolition, or the loss of the zip code. It is still part of the land. And that's what makes Centralia so haunting. Not that it burned, but that it kept burning while life above it slowly disappeared. The lesson is not simply that underground coal fires are dangerous. It is that landscapes remember what people do to them. Mines remain after mines close. Industrial decisions can outlive the people who made them. And sometimes, the most dangerous disaster is the one that doesn't look dramatic enough at first. Today, Centralia sits in the hills of northeastern Pennsylvania as a warning hidden in plain sight. A town reduced to roads, lots, signs, cemeteries, and a few lives still connected to the place. Above ground, the silence can feel almost peaceful. Birds move through the trees, wind crosses the empty pavement, grass grows over spaces where houses once stood. But below that quiet surface, the old fire still has oxygen, fuel, and time. Centralia was not destroyed in a single night. It was unmade slowly, street by street, house by house, decision by decision, until the town above the fire became almost as invisible as the fire below it.